It's time for a medieval combat video review after a long hiatus. This one is sent in by request from Sir Sascha on the left, and this is at the Candlemas Tourney in the Midrealm in 2018, I think. Yeah, so February 2018, a relatively recent fight, and again, apologies for the hiatus. I've moved to Europe, so starting to get my feet under me, and hopefully we're going to have the opportunity to do more of these video analyses soon. So on the left we have Sir Sascha St. Martin, and on the right is King Amos of Atlantia, or king at the time, Sir Amos. So again, Candlemas Tourney, this is a SCA combat. That means that from the knee below is invulnerable, and from the wrist up is invulnerable. Otherwise it's full body, full speed, full power targeting. And no grappling. If you get hit in the arm or leg hard, you lose the use of that limb. Otherwise, a blow ends the fight, and this is going to be a best of 3 fight in a tournament. So without further ado, let's jump in. And I apologize if I'm a little bit rusty, by the way, but as always, we'll watch a full pass at speed, and then we'll perform the analysis. So right off the bat, we're seeing that they're both fighting with kite shields. They look quite similar. There's in fact a really big and important difference. One is arm strapped and one is a center grip. Both right-handed fighters, both fighting with a single sword that you can stab with. Similar stature. Sascha's a little bit taller by the look of it. Sir Sascha looks like he's got a little bit heavier build. But otherwise, it looks like these fighters are both, fighting in a pretty similar style. But don't be fooled by the fact that the shields look the same shape. That looks like a light blow. It was half blocked on the helm or half stepped out of, so they continue to fight. And I think there he's saying that that blow either landed low or didn't quite land hard, so don't worry about taking it. And they're squaring up again. They're both comfortable at that range. It's Sir Amos that tends to close. And he tends to close. You'll notice he does a lot of gather steps. And then that's the killing blow. I think what happened there is Sir Sascha saying that his final blow landed a little bit late. That's my suspicion. And he's telling King Amos not to take the shot. So that's the first pass. I think that one goes to King Amos. So let's take a look at it and break it down little by little. So first off, you can see they're both fighting with relatively even length swords. I'd say King Amos's is roughly maybe 36 inches long from the quillions. He's also fighting without a basket hilt, which I really applaud. So in the SCA, we tend to use basket hilts to protect the hand because they offer really good hand movement. But he's fighting with a cruciform sword and a gauntlet, which looks really cool. So again, right off the bat, you can see here, that's actually a center boss, and that's because Amos is holding his shield with his hand. And you'll see the other shield is actually strapped to the arm. So the arm strap shield a little bit stronger, the hand grip shield a little bit more maneuverable. That's sort of your trade-off there. And here you can see them sort of settling into their range. Sir Sascha fights with a little bit of a stand-up style, and he tends to lean back a little bit. He's comfortable leaning back as opposed to being straight on the vertical, especially when a blow comes in, we'll see. And they're both fighting with a relatively forward guard. You can see that their swords are at an angle in front of them. That's to protect from blows coming from their right. And then, of course, the shield is protecting them pretty well. Here you've got the upper shield is pretty easy to either shrug to block the head. It doesn't offer a lot of target there on that side. Because the shield edge is so far forward, it doesn't offer a lot of target in the back. The legs look open. But it's actually kind of hard to reach them from a given angle. All you need to do is adjust that shield edge a little bit or move it around, and it's a pretty good protection. So the main opportunity to strike on both of these guys is between the sword and shield on the head. They know that very well, and your defenses against that are either to shrug the shield, a little dangerous because when you shrug the shield, it leaves your legs exposed. You can move the head out of the way. That one is a little bit dangerous because it leaves you a little bit off balance. Or your other options are to dip the tip of the sword down over this side and block with a hanging guard, or bring the handle across and block with your sword sort of more upright. So in one position you end up with the sword down, pointed tip down, and the other one you end up with it up, pointed tip up. So you see all of those defenses here from these gentlemen. And you can see also Sir Amos's sword is relatively far forward from the shield. He's not got it next to his body. That makes the thrust from the thrusting tip a little bit more dangerous. but it also leaves his head a little bit more open, so it's a little bit more difficult to block. So you can see his tip's forward, Sir Sascha's tip is a little bit further back. And you can see right off the bat, that thrust comes in, yep, sure enough, and Sascha, being far enough away, is able to defend against that thrust. And here you'll see something right away that you're going to see over and over in Amos's footwork. You see a sliding gather step. So watch his 2 feet. They start here and here, and as he does that thrust, the camera's moving on us, so I'll try to move the camera so it's in the same spot. I don't know if I can do that. But let's just move those circles to where they ought to be. About there and there. So you see him take a step forward with that lead foot, and then he gathers up with that back foot behind it. So he's not actually pushing off the back foot very hard. He's pushing maybe a little bit off that back foot, but after he takes the thrust, he actually pulls the leg up behind him. So you'll see that movement a lot of times. Here, pretty standard block, this, bring the shield edge up. And it doesn't take much to defeat a thrust. Just the slightest touch on the way in, and it's going to get defeated. And here it looks like, you see, after the thrust, King Amos rises up. It looks like he's going to go for the leg. It looks like maybe he's threatening the offside and decides, no, I'm going to stay out. Here we see, this is a feint. This sword pop right there, you see, that's feinting another thrust to the head. But he's not actually doing it. He's hoping he can go for the onside leg. So that first one is actually a feint, and he throws for the onside leg, converts it to a wrap at the last minute, so it's going to strike with the back edge or flat, but Sir Sascha's read it, did not bite on the head thrust, that he was patterned. So Amos is like, look, I stabbed you in the face. Here comes the second stab to the face. Sir Sascha didn't fall for it and steps out, so that leg wrap isn't any threat. Here, it looks to me like King Amos maybe has a little bit of Branos influence, because he's got shots where he stands up on the front leg and sort of counterbalances around that front leg. You see almost like a figure skater's pirouette. Everything's over that front leg. The left leg is sort of out counterbalancing, sort of like Duke Davin used to do, and the arm comes out sort of like a figure skater. It makes for a really fast shot. And here you see, in this case, Sascha throwing more of a moulinet, where he yanks down on the hand to generate circular power. And this is really cool. It's just worth calling out. I mentioned earlier that King Amos isn't using a basket hilt. He blocks this with one of those cross blocks that we talked about. And if you look at it, you're not technically allowed to block with the hand in the SCA because it's invulnerable. That's sort of cheating, putting something invulnerable in the way of the blow. Sir Amos has got a good enough read. And just from this split moment, he's either very lucky, which he's, probably not, or he's got an incredible read and control in the fight. Look he blocks that with the pommel of the sword. The 1 inch that's sticking out as a counterbalance, he blocks that there. 1, that saves his hands. 2, it doesn't require him doing anything fake, like saying, I have an invincible hand. And then he throws a deep offside body on the way out. Pretty cool moves from both of these guys. More of these like super fast shots. You see this shot comes out really quick. And that means, because that shot is such a threat at such speed, and it's not necessarily that it is ultra fast, it's that there's not a lot of tell ahead of it. So your response as a fighter on the other side is you have to move really fast to block it. That means you can't leave yourself available. You can't step in and take any big motions, because one of those shots might crack off at any time. Bang, just like that. See, at any time might come. And we're going in slow motion here. Look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames. So that's a fifth of a second. And we see a bit of a rise up, a bit of a weight shift over that front foot. But Sir Sascha doesn't see much, right? And I think that's where it's a bit of a Branos thing. And then again, you see up over the front leg, then gather back the back leg up, and then step in. And here we see Amos is the one sort of controlling range most frequently, behind a shot or behind a thrust. He'll step in, and then he throws this offside. It looks like this one connects maybe just a little bit. It's a cool shot, and he does it stepping into angulation, but it also catches shield. So Sascha, I think he mentions later that didn't land. And then Sascha's really accurately reading where these threats are coming, so he drops that shield point down in time to block the leg or hip wrap. This offside that Sascha throws is also really sharp, but you can see the shield edge from King Amos gets in there. So they both back out, neither one want to stay there. Fight continues. This one, if you see, I'm going to go back a little bit. You see Sir Sascha stepping forward. If he continued in a straight line, he'd just about lose his leg there. But you see his leg goes sideways. And that is why this shot from Amos is able to skip down off the shield and misses. If he'd stepped more straight towards his opponent, that leg might have been more vulnerable. And then Sir Amos recognizes, wait, I've got my sword down. I'm now vulnerable to a counter shot, and he steps out just in time. Maybe gets touched a little bit low in the knee or just a little bit light. And here they square off again. So you see lots of these good square offs. There's that opening thrust we see again from the beginning of the fight. This time he just brings the back foot up behind. It's not much of a shuffle step with a gather. But you can see now comes the shuffle later. His feet come together and he's pressing in hard. Here you can see a difference in the shield capabilities. The center grip shield all the way up here, you can't really do that with an arm strap shield because your elbow would have to end up down. Oops. Your elbow would have to end up down there. So here's where we see a center grip can be nice. He's actually tabled it up a little bit to create a bunch of open space as he steps in. And it looks like he's wide open himself, but because he's got his shield boss on Sascha's sword, he's got actually pretty good control. And he just steps in. He's looking for an opening. At this point, it looks to me like Amos is actually missing a great opportunity for a wrap. So because he's got his belly against Sascha's shield, that stops Sascha's shield from being able to go around behind him, which means if he's able, and right now he's sort of corked up for an offside shot, a shot that would land on Sascha's right side. If he instead was able to bring the sword around this way and strike in the back, that looks to me like pretty much a guaranteed kill. And I think you can see Sascha feels the same thing. He actually, here's the strength of the arm strap shield. If this was a center grip shield, he might not have been able to get it out so quickly, but because it's arm strapped, he's able to bring, you see him pull it out and get it around in the wrap. So that wrap comes, but it comes too late. The shield's already free, and they continue. And then here's the final exchange of the fight. So this one took me a couple views to see what's going on because of the camera angle. So they both step in and they throw the same shot. They both throw like a deep pendulum offside. And you can see Sascha throws his a little bit first. He's got to bring his hand over and then crank it over. You can see he kind of gets in there. It's unclear if maybe he tags the shield or the sword and bounces off. It looks like the swords connect, but it's sort of one of those Japanese samurai moments where they both swing the same shot. One of them lands, one of them doesn't. And it looks like Amos's blow lands in here in the body or armpit and just barely gets there in time to sort of deflect Sascha's shot. So Sascha's shots come in, bounces off the sword, and Amos's sword drives in. Now, in slow motion, we can see that shot lands and then the combo finishes. So we go, Sascha throws the deep offside pendulum shot and cranks it over to the onside shot, hits Amos in the head. But I think he's saying, listen, you already got me in the armpit. I hadn't quite started the second blow, so don't take it. So I think this is where they call the double kill. And a smart move here, in my opinion. I think Sir Amos is leaving the sword there just in case, to kind of demonstrate, look at, I got it into the armpit. Maybe he didn't bury it, but like you can see, he could have pulled his sword up to block the head. That would probably be the smarter move. If he could get it out from underneath Sascha's elbow, he could continue to protect himself, but he's also saying, like, look, you can see this shot landed. Because sometimes with armor on, it's a little difficult to tell. So because I got this video in 3 parts, I'm going to record it in 3 parts, and hopefully I can stitch them together. But let's look at the second of the 3 fights. All right, round 2, fight. Let's check it out. Again, very similar setup this time around. That same sort of jumping in shot, and a pretty cool move there. So that's round 2. Let's take a quick look in slow motion. And even at slow motion, what happens here is pretty fast. So same setup, same sort of like His Majesty Amos has weight on that front foot for that fast opener. And there's that offside to the head is the killer. So that's a pendulum shot. Let's take a look at this. We can actually get some neat information just out of this. So here's that weight on that front foot. And that's going to be the opening threat. And again, he sees that opening here, right, from where the sword guard is at. And as we go forward, weight on that front foot and pulling down with the hand to generate power and tip speed. Just picked up on the edge of that shield there. And here we can actually see the swords are crossed up with each other, so there's a lot of interesting points where neither of them could throw a shot, even though it's working really quickly. So you kind of have to watch how these blades are crossed here at this point, offering relatively strong defense. Now they're uncrossed, the tips have cleared each other. Now this thrust that's coming in right here is going to miss. It basically comes off the hand or the basket hilt, it looks like, and comes towards the camera, but that also provides defense because that sword, this sword, is in between him and the blade above. So that's still offering protection, and it just skips off. And now at this point, now that they've started to cross, you can see that this shot from Amos was aimed for the head as an offside, but that thrust ends up, looks like bouncing it off the basket hilt, so that offside misses. So just that little bit of defense from the swords crossing here is enough to throw the shot off. And that sort of converts into an awkward wrap position. Now here, again, there's just moments of defense. And if you look at when the pendulum shot throws into this space, you'll see that actually the timing is really, really good. So here the shot's corking up and winding over. You can see that shield starts to push this way to make room. The body's starting to lean back a little bit to get over to that offside to throw that deep pendulum shot. And here, there's still protection. You can't quite see it because the swords are moving quick, but there's a sword blocking this sword here. But it's going to drop just in time. So if Amos's shot had been just a little bit slower, he would have actually gotten a free block out of this. But what he's looking to do is get that basket hilt past the edge of this shield, and as soon as the hand is past the edge of the shield, you're good to go for that offside shot. And meanwhile, picks up the block with his own shield edge. So nice deep shot right here, and catches the kettle or shoulder, the kettle helm or the shoulder right there. Boom. All right, tied 1-1. Let's check out round 3. Now for the third and final round. Again, we'll watch the whole thing at speed. Time testing the waters with the light opening offside. They're both working in circular motion. There you see Sascha kind of throwing the way that Amos had been before. That sort of yank. That opening shot, I think that offside was just a setup for the leg. With some sort of feint in there. Pretty good thrusting for the head. Sascha's got a pretty strong defense against that by the look of it, and also comfortable moving angulation out of the way. Couple openings potentially appearing, but neither of them able to connect. It's now looking like Sascha's going to be sliding away from the camera if he needs to move. And the third fight goes to His Majesty Amos. So let's take a look at that. We'll do each pass sort of in slow motion again. And then we'll break them down a little bit. So again, circling clockwise, we're seeing a fair bit of that. You can also see, although again they look quite similar, there's a significant difference in shield position. It's really subtle, but it's important. A lot of those sort of like, when standing, Sascha's throwing these shots where you sort of yank down with the heel of the palm to generate rotational power. Alright, so let's take a look at that exchange, sort of blow by blow. So here we see both of them throw a lot of these open slashing offsides to the face. They provide really good protection, so it's not that much of a threat. It's almost a bit of a setup, so that slash right there, all it takes is Angus to take a little bit of a step or a lean, or just simply not step in, and it's going to go straight into the defense, but it doesn't expose Sascha that much. You'll see them both throw that, and they have been earlier in the fights. Settling down a little bit, and you can see, we saw earlier Amos put that weight on that front leg and then post up over it and throw a fast rotational yanking shot. So as soon as we see him dip down like that, it looks like he's going to spring up and throw that, and you can see he's looking for an opening, doesn't see it, so his hand moves. So either that's a big feint or he's looking to lunge into that opening shot again that would sort of slash down into that area. And there's that same shot. Now, the neat thing about this is often you'll see those blows sort of go over to that side of the head. Here we're actually seeing it sort of scoop in against that side of the head. So it's at a slightly different angle. That might be partially because Sascha's stepping that direction, but also it makes for sort of a sneaky attack. It actually hits sort of almost straight down on the head as opposed to coming in from the defender's left side. So Neat shot. Now in this case, picked up by the sword. The shield pops out a little bit as double defense, exposing this leg here, but in a way that's kind of hard to take advantage of. And that shield comes right back again right away. The other thing I'm noting is Amos's shield point is starting to drift out a little bit as well. He's not in that much danger right now because he's just hit Sascha's sword as well, but there's a bit of a threat there. Here we see from this position, there's only two blows, in my opinion, that Sascha can really throw. He can throw a thrust from here, or he can throw an onside leg. The onside leg can go around like that, or the thrust can just bring the tip forward here. So here we see what looks like the opening of a thrust, and then he converts into, now you see the hand change position, so that's sort of starting motion, and as the hand circles this way, now it looks like he's got the opportunity to do one of those sort of yanking with the back of the hilt for a rotational shot, right? So he's basically done sort of a figure eight in the air, and then here comes the yank while lifting high in the air. Amos is fading away, so the odds of that getting over the shield edge and getting him in the head start to diminish, right? So it's all a game of angles. The other thing, look as Amos is backing up. He steps back, raises the shield, and then he brings the hand over to cross parry just in case there's another shot. And you see him leave it there for a moment. Okay, no, I'm safe. Well, that's as far back as we can go with this camera angle. The other thing I'm seeing here at this point, the shield point is over this direction just a little bit. So that's probably because he stepped right leg forward. So he's protecting that right leg. There it goes back to cover the left leg again. So, and again, we're seeing, Amos has the slight range advantage because he's fighting sword leg forward, but he needs to bring that shield tip over more. That's something a little easier to do with a center grip shield than with the arm strap. So here we see that same opening slash offside to the eyes, easily defended, but this one's just a feint, and it's aiming for the leg. So here I'm not quite sure what the read is. Sascha sees that. To me, this looks like it's going to be an offside, then onside shot to the leg. But if you watch Sascha's shield, you can watch it climb up. So he sees a threat. He actually lifts the shield up a little bit, as opposed to continuing to drop it. So I'm not sure. He's either lifting the shield because he's reading an onside headshot threat, or because he's moving his own shield out of the way to land the leg shot himself, but Amos's shield is there to catch it with the tip, and his shield's well out of the way. So there we lose the leg. We'll move into the next pass. So here we see, from that position, obviously ready to thrust a lot, blocking with the sword edge and shield. Now, there's a couple things here that I think are going on really well. Normally, I wouldn't recommend bringing your head back out of your guard in the same position. Like, basically, if you peek around a corner and then peek back and then peek around the corner in the same spot, everyone knows where your head's going to appear. When you're on your knees, however, there's not a lot of opportunities to move your head around to a different spot. So he's maintaining vision, he's keeping his eyes open, and he's ready to keep defending with that shield each time he's getting hit, and he's also throwing a threat. All right, I'm not going to let you stand there and stab at me with impunity. So here's a threat you have to deal with. The angle's not great, but at least it means you can't just keep stabbing me in the face. The other thing you'll see is he's going to slide away from the camera to try to get underneath that, or behind that attack, a little bit of angulation out of the way, and set up again. Now here, again, Amos in a good position to be doing thrusting. Now with the sword in that position, he can do some rotational movements. This opening leg shot, I think that's just a sort of, keep him honest type thing. Unless he steps into it, that's not going to land. And with Amos's sword where it is, there's not that much of a threat to counterpunch. Really, the only thing open there is a little bit of arm. Kind of hard to reach all the way down there, especially with the sword in this position. So relatively safe. Who knows? Maybe I'll pick up the leg. The other thing I'll note at this point is leaning a little bit towards the right-hand side to try to get that angle for that shot and staying in that leaned position. There's that opening safe offside slash to the eyes again. And here, if you watch, Sascha actually comes forward a little bit with that knee to throw that sort of pendulum offside. And then here comes the counter pendulum offside from Amos, tangled up in the sword so it doesn't land. At speed, it looks a little bit like it does, but here you can see that shot, the shot that Sascha throws as a follow-up, actually protects him from that next blow. Amos stepping in, does a pretty cool hourglass. It's tough to do this, to throw a deep offside here and then follow with the second deep offside. So he throws the one, body shift, shoulder reset, sword comes up again, and take a step, another deep offside. That's pretty tough to do, but the defense is there. So let's watch the next pass. Here they set up again. This time not threatening the thrust as much. Looks like Amos has given up on using it. Now, that could either be he just doesn't want to be seen as the kind of guy who's going to stab people in the face over and over, or he's realized it isn't working, so he's not threatening the thrust right now. To me, that reads as a threat either... Amos looks like he's getting ready to throw an offside, or he's going to step in deep and throw a wrap shot around the back from that position, or he's going to have to change positions. Instead, surprise attack, he's cutting that same angle we saw before, where it's an onside shot, but instead of coming in like this, it comes in like that, over the top. Now, in this case, against the guard that Sascha's got, it's not doing much, but it's easy, it's quick, it's fast, it's not super exposed, and Amos throws a thrust. Now, here we actually see, or sorry, I should say Sascha throws a thrust. Here, again, we see Sascha's attacks providing defense a bunch. That basket hilts out, it stops that shoulder shot from merely landing. However, he's exposed, and his sword is going to be hard to recover past Amos's legs. Amos steps up behind again into the same position. Remember where we saw that double pendulum? And there's another shot. This one, hard to tell, probably into Sascha's armpit while lifting his shield. So here's a place where, again, we see a little bit of the flexibility of the center grip shield. He's able to move his shield a little bit more freely and throw his arm around the front of his own shield. Important thing to note, he probably can't see what he's hitting right here. He's covered himself with a shield, but he knows where his target is, and it was probably an armpit shot. So that's the fight. A really cool set of fights, cool set of techniques, and these guys look like they fought each other a bit before. We also got to see some changing techniques over the course of the fight. So once again, thank you very much for submitting these videos. Apologies that it's taken me so long to stitch things together, and I'm looking forward to picking up where we left off, doing videos a little bit more frequently. Thank you very much.